Hello, folks. Welcome to the Solar Fit Renewable Energy Show. Bill Gallagher, I'm back with you again today and coming to you from our studio in beautiful Daytona Beach, Florida. It's summer. It's hot. I really envy my friends that are up north in a little bit cooler climate. Boy, you can't beat it down here. You walk outdoors, you go to the beach. It's just so beautiful. I want to give a shout out to our friends at Daytona Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram for their loyal support through the years, particularly to our driver, Mr. Daniel Dye, competing full-time in the Xfinity Series, driving the number 10 Colleague Chevrolet. Oh, my gosh, they went to our favorite track, Watkins Glen, last week. Had a little bit of a trouble with keeping tires on the car. Ran great. It was running in the top 10, but lost a tire. And that's the way it goes in racing. In a couple of weeks, we'll be back down here in Daytona Beach for the summer race, and that's going to be great to see. So get online if you can and cheer him on. He's carrying the Solar Fit colors and the Race to Stop Suicide across America. So please join in and help us for that very worthy cause. I have got a wonderful fellow with me today, Mr. Brett Henderson, who is a CEO and co-founder of SPR and a vice president of Powerhouse Recycling. Brett, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Bill. Thanks for having me on today.
Well, that is just a dynamic title. That's a big title, man.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll hop in a little bit today, but Powerhouse Recycling has been a recycler in the electronics space for just under 2 decades now, and it's kind of how we've had this progression and natural fit to open up a whole other entity in SPR, which has a focus on solar panel recycling and its needs that I'm sure we'll discuss quite a bit today.
Yeah, I am really, really interested in this. We'll get into that in just a minute, but let's go back to your history. Where were you born? Where did you go to school? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born and raised in Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, to be more specific. Played a little bit of hoops at a small Division III school in the Columbus, Ohio area, and then kind of transferred out to Ohio State's Fisher College of Business to really start honing in and focusing on my business degree. From there, I went and earned my MBA and master's from Cleveland State University with a focus on management and international business, and came down here to the Charlotte, North Carolina area about 15 years ago now to kind of begin this path on recycling and renewables.
Charlotte, North Carolina, do they call it the hub? Isn't that the name they call it for all the business activities there?
Yeah, it's a wonderful location to operate. You have quite a bit of activity at the international airport. It's actually, I just heard it's, I think, 4th nationally in passengers each year, and you can definitely tell when you're traveling through it. It's becoming a little bit cumbersome, but it's kind of a good hub and portal to connect a lot of the financial businesses that are headquartered in NYC and Charlotte. It has a wonderful location from our logistical standpoint to service the Southeast all the way up to Eastern Seaboard without having too far of a run. So, yeah, it's a good hub, and it's great for really a myriad of industries, and I think that's why you see such a growth in this area.
Well, for sure. We travel through Charlotte quite often, and I'm really anxious to see them finish that airport because it's a little bit crazy there.
It sure is. Yeah, we fly out quite often, our team, specifically on the solar side of the business, and it's going the right direction, but there's definitely some room for improvement, that's for sure.
Well, they're working on it, and I'm sure they'll have it done soon. So,
yeah.
I think back 20 years ago, that was about when solar power systems starting to become a little bit more affordable and popular. And, of course, most of the solar panels, solar modules, if you will, had a 25-year warranty. And now they're kind of nearing, I don't want to call it end of life, but, thinking back, gosh, we had solar panels that were 100 watts, and now we have them that are 590 watts and larger than that. I would assume that,
right,
that a lot of these people are just changing them out to newer technology, and that's where you come in, right?
Absolutely. It's a question we're often posed. Myself and another co-founder and our CFO, Steve Turk, we've spoken both at the state legislative bodies as well as Capitol Hill, and a lot of questions posed to us is why are we taking a look at recycling the solar panels now? Aren't these things supposed to be out in the field 25, 30 years? And the short answer is yes, they are, but the longer answer, and you've kind of are alluding to it, is what the industry calls these repowers. To liken it more to a more household type scenario, it's similar to when your kid, for example, I have a high school son and then a middle school daughter, and every year they think that, hey, the new iPhone's out, it must be this new and improved technology, and they're always trying to get that new upgrade, even though their old iPhone works. So take that back to businesses that are upgrading laptops and PCs and servers that are still working, but there's a newer and greater technology out there. So we're absolutely seeing that on the solar side. You see it a bit more on the utility and energy commercial grade sites, more so than the homeowner that's probably hoping to get the 25, 30 years out of their system. But we're having a lot of large utility scale companies coming to us and saying, hey, this site might have only been on 8, 10, 11 years, but we could use the same footprint and, triple, if not quadruple our output. So, we're ready to pull out 50,000 panels, 100,000 panels, all the way up to some projects that we're working on that are 1 million plus panels.
Holy moly. Now, you bring up a good point there about the utility scale. Yeah, they're monetized by the power that they produce. And over time, of course, there's a certain amount of degradation in the solar panels. And, if they're not getting the return, it may be more profitable just to switch out to more efficient panels. But boy, I'll tell you what, you must have a big truck. How do you get all those panels out there?
Yeah, I mean, the residential size panels are large in themselves, but when you're really talking about these commercial panels that make up, probably the better part of 90% of our throughput through our various recycling facilities, these panels range anywhere from 3 feet by 6 feet to some panels that are borderline 8 feet. And really what we kind of give the quick math rule of thumb when some of our project managers are trying to get a rough idea of how many panels could fit on a truck is about 500. So every 1,000 panels that are coming off of the site is at least 2 semi trucks. So there's a big logistical strategy in cost. Those same costs to get 100,000 panels, 1 million panels to a given site, they're going to be at or even exceeded as freight seems to go up, year over year to get them off site. So there's a big logistical piece to it, and it's something we're proud of. Is our team and our logistical manager and some of our staff have put together what we call a truck maximization plan to make sure that we're getting every either pound allowable on the truck, or if space constraints hit first, making sure that we're packaging these panels to get all of the space filled. It could really make a large difference in the cost of recycling. If you could get a project from 12 semi trucks down to 6, obviously that's some large savings.
Well, for sure. And the price of fuel is going one way and it's not down. It's just that's such an impact on the cost, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is, and we've had this feedback with some of our larger O&Ms that we might be sourcing panels from, or EPCs, or even the residential companies that are consolidating. We've recognized this. Some of our other competitors or recyclers entering the space may be expanding their current facility larger and larger, and we are absolutely having to do that as we get to capacity at each location, but we recognize the value in having regional facilities throughout the country. So some of our national energy companies might have sites in 5, 10, 15, maybe even 20 different states, and we don't want them all to have to transport to 1 or 2 singular owned and operated facilities. Not only does that increase the carbon footprint to get panels from site to recycling facility, but it also increases costs. So our goal is to keep adding owned and operated facilities with our state-of-the-art technology to different regions around the country. And right now we're able to receive panels at 4 different sites.
That is amazing. Boy, I can see why that would make sense instead of transporting them all over. Kind of take us through, you get a call from a utility fellow and he goes, look, we need to replace these panels. Take me through the process. I mean, does someone go out and analyze it? Is it done through drones, or tell me how you determine the process?
Yeah, it's a great question. First and foremost, we need to figure out what type of panel or technology is on the site. There's some differences in recycling costs. There's some differences in waste classification declarations or some differences in technologies that'll be used on what the type of panel is. The positive is 95% of the global market share is a silicon-based panel, with about 5% being cadmium telluride. If you bring that into the U.S. market, since there's obviously a big manufacturer of cadmium telluride panels here, it's about 60 to 65% is silicon-based, and then the rest being cadmium telluride. So first and foremost, we need to understand what type of panel it is. A lot of times that could be accomplished through a spec sheet. A lot of our clients could share the make and model that they have, and we have a wonderful database built up knowing of the length, the width, how many junction boxes there are, the depth of the panel, what type of panel it is. And from there, our compliance team could take a hard look at that given project's location. A lot of recycling legislation or waste classification rules and regulations, it's a three-prong approach, and it's typically going to be at the local and state levels that really drive how a waste product, if you will, is transported and how it's recycled. And then there's some overarching EPA regulations as well. So we first understand what type of panel it is. We then take a look at the project location, make sure that our clients are going to be in full compliance and exactly how these things are transported to our nearest facility. And then from there, we start looking at quantities, what type of work may need to be on site. Are these already decommissioned and sitting on pallets somewhere? Does our team need to go on site and remove them from racks? Do they need palletized, loaded? There's all sorts of factors that really look into how to make a project go efficiently. Again, the most we could get on a truck in the least amount of time we could spend on site, it really earns major savings for our clients.
Yeah, that's good. And I mean, I would imagine that there's a lot of different terrain. We're seeing solar modules, I think up in Vermont, they're up on hillsides and kind of slope down. I mean, you have to have special equipment to access that, or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. Terrain's a large part of it. I'll give you an example. We had a project up in the Northeast that the solar farm was actually built over a landfill that was, no longer obviously in operation. So we had to bring on skid steers that had a very specific PSI in their tires. That's one of the more extreme examples, or it could be as simple as, hey, this project's out in the desert, and we're going to be going over, sand and rocky terrain, or it may be after a storm that we're doing a storm cleanup and it might be wet and soggy. So, terrain is another thing we look at, the different safety standards of who's running that site, how, weather alerts happen, how weather alarms work, what the working hours can be. These are all things that kind of go into consideration in the project planning. But luckily we've been at it for long enough that, as long as this list may seem, we could really typically get on site, or sometimes not even have to get on site if the information is strong, and turn around, quotes and project plans pretty quickly for our clients so they could, plan accordingly.
Boy, Brett, this is a lot more technical than I thought. It's very, very interesting, though. I mean, you really have to do a deep dive to understand all the functions. Folks, are almost up to a break time here, and then we're going to get Brett back. We're going to talk some more. So if you don't mind, guys, stay with us. We'll be right back. Hi folks, Bill Gallagher with SolarFit here. Have you ever thought about utilizing solar power for your home or business? Well, there's never been a better time to plug into the sun and stop renting electricity. How would you like to let your roof start paying you each month? Give us a call at 445-7606. That's 445-7606, or visit us at solarfit.com and set yourself free.
SolarFit your life and set yourself free with the sun's free energy.
Hey folks, welcome back to the SolarFit Renewable Energy Show. Bill Gallagher with you. Man, I'm having a great conversation with Brett Henderson, CEO and co-founder of SPR, Vice President of Powerhouse Recycling. I'm telling you what, this is fascinating to me, Brett. I'm so glad that you made it on here. I had no idea there was so much involved in the recycling. To the layman, it just thinks, well, I think I'll take this over to the place and drop it off. No, that's not what's happening here. You were talking about the utility scale. Can you dig a little deeper in that and tell us, once you've reclaimed it, then what happens?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we talked about already the different steps that go into project planning of just getting the panels off site to a recycler. Now it's entered one of our recycling facilities, and that's really where the technology kicks in. So, I'll first take a step back. It's a very still research and development heavy industry. Powerhouse Recycling, the parent company, if you will, has been recycling and reclaiming metals and plastics and different components of electronics for the better part of 2 decades. And these are then reclaimed, cleaned up, and entered back into circulation of worldwide production in a ton of different industries here. Well, from the solar side, we had one of our large utilities back in 2018 that we were doing electronics recycling and data destruction for the better part of a decade and a half come to us and say, hey, this stuff really isn't regulated yet, but we are a major utility in multiple states, and we're always under that environmental microscope, if you will. And they went to market to look at whom is recycling solar panels in the U.S. market and who's reclaiming and recovering good percentages, and it just wasn't there yet. It really is, and still is to this day, a bit in its infancy stages. So that's when we began R&D in 2018, and it was 2023 when we were ready and confident in our technology to really source panels in all 50 states versus just a handful of our piloted utilities. And 2023 is when SPR was formed. Stands for solarpanelrecycling.com. And we have this technology. So to bring it back, to the table here, these panels, get from solar site to our facility, and that's really where the technology starts. So, as you know, a solar panel is encapsulated with layers, right? You have a layer of the actual silicon wafers themselves, and you have glass layers and plastic layers, aluminum frames, junction boxes. And the whole goal in any recycling discipline, whether it's solar panels or electronics or any of the other recycling industries out there, is you have to cleanly separate the commodities that make up an item. So in this case, the solar panel, and you have to get them all clean from each other. So when we put glass back into different manufacturing markets, that glass cannot be contaminated with the aluminum frame or the plastic or the silicon. And same goes for recovering silicon and silver, and same goes for recovering aluminum. So it comes into our facility, and we use kind of the cool AI technology to read the panel to figure out its length, its width, its depth, where the junction boxes are, and it speaks to all the different parts of the automated line. So we're shaving off the glass as close to the silicon wafer without actually capturing the silicon, because we don't want it to contaminate the glass. And we use some proprietary technology and some technology that was, available out in the different Asian and EU markets that are a bit ahead. And ultimately, we're creating these clean commodities at the very end that can be circulated back into production and manufacturing in a bunch of different industries.
Wow. that is cool.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in, I know.
No, is this all automated? I mean, is there like a robot that comes over and, I've been to several different manufacturing plants where they have a suction thing, they picked up the glass, rotate it, and tell me about the process. Yeah,
it's definitely very automated. I mean, it's not 100% automated. We have a handful of employees, monitoring the line, making sure that the commodities are separated and the machine's running the way it should be. We have employees that will load the panel. We do have the ability to have a robot load it, but we haven't gained any productivity in that, and there's some benefits of having human interaction with that loaded panel, so they could do some examinations if maybe it was warped from, a wind event or something of that nature. But it is mostly automated, yes. I mean, to run in a full recycling line, we have 4 different technologies between our plants, and for the most part, it takes about 4 to 6 employees to run a line that could be feeding, hundreds of thousands of panels through it in a given year.
How long does it take to, say, reclaim one panel, hypothetically?
Yeah, so they go station to station. So if you're just putting one panel through and watching it get all the way to the end where it's broken down to all its base commodities, it's about 4.5 minutes. But every about 30 seconds is where it moves to the next station where another panel could be loaded. So it's kind of this continuous feed, if you will. And why we're on the topic of technology, it's really what's helped differentiate solar panel recyclers from those just trying to reclaim the aluminum is, if you look at the composition of the panel, about 72 to 80% of the weight is glass, depending on the manufacturer, depending if it's a bifacial or not. And then you have about 8 to 10%, could be aluminum. Then the rest is going to be your silicon, your trace metals, your plastics. And what we've seen ahead of this industry being regulated is a lot of metal yards or maybe recyclers that aren't fully committed to investing R&D in upgrading their technology to really just try to bring in these panels, get the aluminum off, which is the low-hanging fruit, and the rest goes to landfill. So we're quite excited to be one of the early movers in the U.S. market to advocate it be done in the correct way. And we're equally excited to see SEIA, the largest solar association in the state, generating their own recycling certification to assure that solar panels and their commodities are recovered at a very high rate.
That is awesome. What do you do with the silicon? I mean, I can see what you can do with the aluminum. What do you do with the silicon? Does that go back into production, or what happens to that?
Yeah, so the silicon and the silver are two items that will be reclaimed through different metallurgical or smelting processes. The silver is really straightforward. You could get it down to a clean silver ingot and sell that to really any manufacturer that is utilizing silver in any of their production. The silicon requires a bit more processing. So in-house, a recycler's goal is to get the clean commodity separation and then get this silicon to a consumer of it. But they will typically go a lot of directions with it. So the silicon could be utilized in the manufacturing of batteries. It could be utilized in the technological space, semiconductors. There's consumers of it that will use silicon to help make crucibles that will help do the steel recycling process. There's consumers of silicon that will turn it into paint products. So the recycler themselves aren't taking the silicon and making a final product to go to end user in-house. We're getting it to different industries that could consume it and make the product that they want to make.
That's pretty cool when you think about it. You have a solar panel 20 years ago, and the next thing you know, it's your cell phone. You got parts of it in your cell phone. Right. That is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's one of the most intriguing parts about recycling in general. We discussed my background being strictly in business and management and entrepreneurship, and what really makes this space interesting for me is that we're able to take a product that's no longer being used in its original form, find a way to cleanly separate into clean commodities, and really see how many different industries could consume it. There's so much solar panel waste coming out. By 2030, they're expecting it to be, millions of tons in the U.S., and it's even larger if you look on the global scale. So you need as many manufacturing industries to consume this as possible. It shouldn't be a singular look that this should only go back into the manufacturing of solar panels, or it should only go into battery manufacturing, or it should only go into, the manufacturing of a frame for a window. You want to keep making clean commodity separation so it could scale and more industries could consume it.
Hey, I was looking at your website, and you had one of our favorite senators, Tom Tillis, on, kind of talking about your product. And he's a hero of ours, and you're lucky to have him up there in Carolina.
Yeah, that was a really cool experience. So American Clean Power and Tom Tillis came to our plant to tour it and do some press releases out of here. He's been a huge advocate for solar on, the side of the aisle that typically hasn't been, really pro-solar, pro-renewables. So it was great that he was right here in our headquartered state of North Carolina and took the time to come visit our facility. We're a huge fan of him, and he's done some great things for the solar space. North Carolina, where we're headquartered, is fourth in solar installations, and you obviously have Texas, Florida, and California all ahead of them. But it's really one of the major players in solar, and he had a large part to do with it.
Do you have anybody in Florida that any partners that send product to you, or how do you handle Florida, or is it just too new down here?
No, we absolutely we source panels and can source from all 50 states. This industry isn't established enough where a utility or residential or energy company is just going to have a true solar panel recycler in every city, right? So we have large utilities that have sites in 5, 6, 7 different states, and Florida's being a large one. When Hurricane Helene hit last year and unfortunately did some damage up here in North Carolina where we're headquartered, as well as Florida, there was a large site that was kind of making national news from some tornadoes that spawned out of the hurricane and went through a solar field. And it gave, of course, all the renewable opponents, ammo here, if you will, that see, solar and renewables can't, withstand storms. And we played a large part in getting all of that diverted from a landfill and recycled. So we do quite a bit of work in Florida, not just, weather event related, but just from regular breakage that might be from this O&M breakage. Or, another side that we haven't talked about today is when you construct a large solar fields, say you're buying 150,000 panels and putting 150,000 panels in, you're going to have some breakage in construction. You're going to have some breakage in transportation. So we actually partner with a lot of EPCs, and when the construction's going on, it's generating panels that need to be recycled as well. And again, all those different sources have been coming out of Florida for us.
It's amazing here in Florida. We have these things called hurricanes, and we really sustain very, very little damage to their solar. But, a tornado is a completely different animal. And I was up in North Carolina about a month ago, and boy, the damage done up there from that storm that went through, I mean, it is unbelievable what water and wind can do. But, we're almost out of time here, Brett. I cannot believe this is such an interesting topic. You're going to be out at RE Plus this year?
We absolutely will be. Yep, our team will be out there. We have a booth on kind of the main level there, which is actually that second level. So, absolutely look us up, and to all your listeners, stop by and learn more about us. We'd love to talk about it and see, other industry, listeners of your podcast out there. It'd be great to put, some listeners in touch with us there. So, definitely stop by and see us, our team, and learn all about what we're doing.
That sounds great. We usually go out. We'll go out this year. We usually do 8 to 10 interviews up in the media room. So we'll connect. We'll come down and we'll interview you probably at your booth or something. But we want to talk more with you, Brett. This is just such a needed industry, and I'd love to see that you guys are heading the way you're doing.
Great. Yep, I appreciate it. The last thing I'll let your listeners know is we have locations in West Texas, North Carolina, and Georgia, and we're rapidly expanding that network. All of these locations are owned and operated by us, no outsourcing, all with advanced technologies, fully compliant, fully audited, with some wonderful ESG reporting that could also be a good metric for the stakeholders that are interested in where these end-of-life panels go. So, look us up, call us up. We could get you some project assessments and see if we could partner and keep these things out of landfill.
Sounds great, Brett. That's SPR. Look them up on the internet. Watch some of the videos. I did it, and I've learned a lot. Brett, thank you so much. Listen, we'll look forward to seeing you, I guess, about a month and a half out in Las Vegas. And continued good luck. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Bill. It was wonderful to be on the show today.
Thanks, folks. Okay, folks, so we're going to sign off for now. That was a very interesting interview with Brett. I hope you tune in, and if you missed the first part of it, catch us on our podcast series. But great stuff. Be sure to jump on TV CW and watch Daniel down here in Daytona just in a couple of weeks, and watch him on CW, or better yet, come on down to the racetrack. We're looking for you there. Have a great weekend, folks. We'll see you next week.